Well, I'm a political economist, and my work in recent years has been on global governance. So I guess my focus would be on the institutions of global governance, but not just UN and World Bank and so on, but rather broader, the rules of the game, the institutions in the wider sense. And I feel that the rules, to a large extent, favour the North, so that the North, if you like, to a very large extent, controls the way the international system works, especially the rules of international trade and finance, which largely are to the disadvantage of poor people in poor countries. And in terms of making the rules, implementing the rules, interpreting the rules, adjudicating the rules, all these are political processes which are largely controlled by the North. Then that, in a sense, tells you something about inequality, but not necessarily so much about poverty, because it can be argued with some justification that international trade and finance also tend to encourage economic growth. So then the question arises, well, how is this economic growth shared, distributed? And the evidence in recent years is that actually inequality is increasing both between countries and within countries. And again, if you ask specifically about extreme poverty, the challenge is even greater. And there, I think one has to recognise that however fair and just the rules of the game may be, there are people who will not be able to take advantage of the opportunities that gives, so that in any event you will need some sort of social welfare system, which we have here in Scandinavia, but regrettably not in many other countries, even in some countries of the North. So in order to counter extreme poverty, you need an effective social welfare system. I suppose the logic that follows then is what you need is to create a more level playing field. And in order to create that, you need, again, to control or to seek to control those who exert power, that is, especially the rich countries, and most notably the United States, but also rich, powerful corporations who exert a considerable influence over the system. Now, in terms of my own work, I mean, as a researcher, what can I do? Well, hopefully I can study and better understand how this system works, both on the global system, but also the micropolitics of how rules are interpreted and made. For the countries of the South, I would say that what they need to do actually is really to try and strengthen the United Nations, because what's been happening in recent years is a weakening of the UN, building up of alternatives, which are to a large extent disadvantageous to the South. Well, the SDGs, I think the good news about the SDGs by comparison with the MDGs, I think there are two. I mean, first is that they put the issue of governance on the agenda. It's on the table, which really was pretty much absent in the MDGs. It's dealt with in a rather sort of cautious and sometimes ambiguous way, but at least the issue is there. And secondly, the SDGs are framed in terms of a shared responsibility. And this means not just shared in the sort of old-fashioned sense of we in the North have responsibility to give some aid and transfer technology, but rather a broader sense of that we also have a responsibility for the way the international system works. So if you put those two together, then I think you have the possibility of using the SDGs as a political instrument to correct some of these imbalances, these power imbalances, which I've been emphasizing.